Writing stories can be difficult. We've all been stuck or frustrated at some point trying to write them, so to avoid that, I'll let you in on some of the biggest mistakes you could make while building a story. It's not exactly a blueprint, but it gives you the essential tools you need to not completely fuck your story up. For more intricate guides, I suggest you check out my other videos. They'll be helpful to you. But enough advertisement. Not sticking to your genre is definitely up there for biggest mistakes you can make. Incorporating subgenres in your stories like romance or action in a horror story isn't necessarily bad, but when you start overdoing it, that's the real problem. If your horror story starts having humoristic scenes at the wrong times, then it just hinders the story and just makes it frustrating for the audience. Or when a side couple, still on a horror story, cannot stop getting screen time and goes on side quests we know will amount to nothing because they're gonna die anyway, is a waste of time you could have put in on actual important characters. The execution is the problem most of the time, but there are circumstances when none of that is needed, and if ignored, the audience will get taken out of the immersion and just start wondering, what the fuck am I watching? My Guardian Spice? Just don't overdo it. Next is one not many will have much experience on probably, and that is world building. Here's your simple, extremely short guide to understand world building and implement it. Everything you create in your story needs to be used or have some purpose. Imagine you start writing a fantasy story and establish that humans can jump very high, for example. You can have established so many more things, of course, that are all a part of your world building, but you make the decision to implement this. Okay, sure. Of course, you start setting up a plot that will use this world you established, and then you won't ever again because you either forgot you even created this, or you just don't allow your humans to do it because it's convenient to the plot. I see this all the time, especially the latter. It honestly will infuriate, yes, infuriate everyone when you deliberately ignore the very mechanics and rules you established when it's inconvenient to the plot. Let them jump! Fuck! And this should be important to every rule you implement in a world building. They need to stay consistent. Even if you don't use them all the time, the most important or interesting ones have to show up at the very least at crucial moments in the story. It adds weight, coherence, and a sense of payoff that makes the world feel alive and intentional. World building is extremely important. Do not forget. This mistake is actually one of the biggest you can make. Bad characterization. When a character has a defined personality and it's clear to the audience what it is, suddenly diverting from it without reason makes them feel inconsistent, confusing, unrelatable, unbelievable, frustrating, literally every negative attribute ever, dude. Your character shouldn't go from stern to happy-go-lucky to depressed and to witty just because the situation needs it. When you make your character a certain way, you must be able to incorporate them in the story and have them react to situations in a way that is unique to them. That's how we can find nuances in the way we act with theirs and get attached to them and understand them. A character that changes attitude and personality when the plot needs it isn't a character, it's a plot device, for fuck's sakes. Stay consistent and don't lose the image of the character you created. Don't go astray with them. Now, who doesn't love interesting storylines? The premise is usually what gets the audience hooked, and it tells them what they should be prepared for in the future of the story. But when the beginning of the story is flat, predictable, sometimes inconsequential, events just don't really matter, and we're out here wondering why we were even shown these scenes. You lose the audience before they even care to stay, and it breaks their immersion and makes the story uninteresting. Your premise has to be clear, engaging, and strong enough to promise something worth sticking around for. If you don't feel like you would stay around to see how the story progresses, then your ideas must be improved and polished more. As you progress with your story, you'll start making plot lines, a sequence of events that follow a specific conflict or goal. Think of it like a thread that shows how things progress for a character or group. For example, a hero gets a mission, they face obstacles, defeats the villain, and returns changed from it. That plotline had a purpose that changed the hero, for better or worse. But when you set up a plotline and don't go through with it, when you don't finish it, it leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. The ones that get this treatment are the side ones, but they need to be taken care of just as much as the main plot line. You can't just neglect parts of your story because you don't know how to conclude them or make them relevant to the main one. You need to be able to adapt certain parts of your story and somehow link them up. That's how stories get intricate and intriguing. When we discover everything is tied in some way, it gives the audience a sense of meaning, depth, and intentionality, like the story actually respects their attention. That's how you gain long-term fans. I've actually talked about this mistake before, but I really need to reiterate because some people just do too much. Stop inserting jokes in important scenes. It ruins them almost every time, and sometimes they're just not needed for the scene. Stop overdoing humor. You don't need to try and steal a laugh from the audience every 2 seconds. Let the scene be serious and let things unfold in a natural way. In short, just stop overdoing it. There's something extremely important you must think about when you have characters, and that is their development. Where they start, where they're headed, and where they'll end by the end of the story in terms of development. Your characters need to change throughout the events of your story. Their worldview needs to be realistic so that when it gets shattered by traumatic events, for example, they can reform and become a better version of themselves, or the opposite. You can make stationary characters, which are just characters that have a set worldview that is unshakable and cannot be changed simply thanks to their sheer willpower, but that too needs to be executed right for it to work. And you also need to take into account multiple things, which I won't go through now, but just so you know. The hardships they go through need to change them, whether it be losing someone or understanding life isn't simple, or that you need to fight if you want to live. All these different messages have to be understood by the character in an impactful and natural way, so that the payoff to the audience is just that much more satisfying. It's also what makes them relatable. Remember that. They are a vessel to engagement and entertainment the audience searches for. So, make the best of them. Don't neglect them and make them interesting. There's something just inherently annoying in a story when things just happen at random. These often surprising events mostly lead to character deaths by trying to subvert expectations, when in reality it's just the dumbest shit ever, and no one's going to take it seriously. Cause you mean to tell me that just because Cassidy decided to rip a flower apart, it created a sort of butterfly effect that made a whole plane fall on her ass? Unless we're in Final Destination, ain't nobody gonna shed tears. Like, dude, a plane fell on her. LMAO. These types of things are just the most frustrating shit ever. It's used to create conflict and a sense of surprise, when in reality there are just much clever ways to do it. So yeah guys, just don't try to make shit happen because it's gonna be convenient to the plot. Make it in a natural way that often involves characters doing it. Your main character should be creating conflict. Things shouldn't just happen to him. It makes them passive, boring, forgettable. Your protagonist isn't a background prop. They should be the reason shit goes down, not just someone reacting to chaos, hitting them left and right. Conflicts hits way harder when it's a result of their choices, flaws, or goals, not some random plane falling from the sky. So yeah, make sure your characters do things. Make them mess up, make them cause problems. That's where real tension comes from. And finally, the ending. Get it? Because I'm finishing by the ending and we're at the end of the video and... Alright, I'll just get fucked. Anyway, stop making trash endings! Please, just stop! Your ending needs to resolve every plotline you created, and every character must have gone through some sort of development. Your premise also must be concluded and finished in a powerful and successful way. The ending should feel like a reward, not a punishment for caring. Tie up your arcs, deliver on your themes, and for the love of God, don't throw in something wild in the last 10 minutes just because you think it'll be shocking. If your audience walked away confused, unsatisfied, or mad, you didn't write an ending. You wrote a fucking shit show. That's really one of the most important parts of your story, so you need to nail it. By avoiding these fatal mistakes, your story will already 100% be better than most ones out there, and people won't feel like fucking you off for it. I am Mako, and this was 9 fatal mistakes that will ruin your story. Make sure to check out my other videos similar to this one. I have a playlist dedicated to them in the description. And make sure to check out these other videos. I'm sure they'll interest you. Hope you enjoyed the video, and until we see each other again, ciao. Get out.